Thank you to not just the Filipino fans but to everyone, I think, here in Indian Wells. Of course, sa mga Pinoy, maraming salamat sa suporta. Magkita tayo sana sa Miami at sana sa susunod kong laban mas maganda yung laro ko.
The executives at Indian Wells were convinced they had made a brilliant strategic decision by showcasing the Filipina phenomenon on the prestigious Stadium 1. However, they massively underestimated the collective power of the television remote following a devastatingly swift Tuesday night match. Screens across the globe effectively went dark. What just happened? And before we dive deep into this, if you're new here, welcome. Hit that like button and subscribe to the channel right now. We cover the stories that tennis media is too afraid to tell. And trust me, you do not want to miss what's coming next. The Eala effect has proven to be an undeniable force. And now the Women's Tennis Association is experiencing the immediate and painful fallout. Be honest, did your television go off the second Eala's match ended? Or are you genuinely pretending to care about the rest of the tournament bracket? Drop your honest answer in the comments below. We want to know. And, just like that, what many consider the unofficial 5th Grand Slam has transformed into a virtual ghost town. It's almost as if no one could have possibly predicted this outcome. Well, nobody, except for literally every single person with an internet connection in the Philippines and the vast global Filipino diaspora. Reports indicate the WTA is in a state of profound disbelief, which is corporate jargon for. We completely overlooked the fact that a single athlete was single-handedly propping up our entire first quarter engagement for 2026. And now, ladies and gentlemen, hailing from the Philippines, the tournament organizers were patting themselves on the back, giving Eala top billing by placing her match in the 16,100-seat Stadium 1, notably the second-largest tennis-dedicated stadium in the entire world. They even moved American fan favorite Amanda Anisimova over to Stadium 2, all in an effort to capitalize on the immense hype surrounding Eala. That looked like a stroke of marketing genius. For exactly 56 minutes. Because that was the precise amount of time Noskova needed to deliver a stark reminder of why she holds that 14th ranking. This was far more than just a loss on the scoreboard. It was a complete 6-2, 6-0 demolition. To be handed a bagel to close out the match. That is truly unbelievable. Noskova performed with an urgency that suggested she had an imminent flight to catch. And regrettably for the WTA's broadcast numbers, she packed Eala's tournament hopes and the entire viewing audience's attention right into her carry-on. The statistics tell a brutal story. Noskova delivered 7 blistering aces, whereas Eala managed a total of 0. The contest felt less like a competitive tennis match and more like a 55-minute public practice session for the Czech player.
Mom, I'm playing doubles tomorrow, you know that. Oh! Oh, that's so well done.
It doesn't look like Noskova is going to let up. No. No issue there, though.
Yep.
Another thing to factor in is that if it is so slow, you're often so far up the court.
I feel such an idiot when you can't return that serve.
Oh, but no issue returning that serve from Noskova. What a performance from Linda Noskova. Battle between two young, talented players. But only one really rose to the challenge. Disappointment for Alex Eala. It's been a good tournament for her. Moving inside the world's top 30 for the first time in her career. But it's Noskova who moves on. A simply devastating display of attacking brilliance. It's the better of Eala. 6-2, 6-love to make the quarterfinals in Indian Wells for the first.
The second, the post-match handshake at the net concluded. Broadcast viewership figures didn't simply decline, they plummeted into a freefall. It has become abundantly clear that when you build an entire promotional campaign around a bona fide superstar like Alex Eala, your key performance indicators tend to vanish the moment she exits the stage. So who is left to watch in the quarterfinals? Talia Gibson versus Paolini? Well, Paolini was already sent packing by Gibson in a stunning 7-5, 2-6, 6-1 upset, which means the upcoming quarterfinal now features Noskova against an Australian qualifier. One can only imagine the absolute delight of the advertisers over that particular matchup. The satirical commentary on this situation practically writes itself. The event planners are likely staring out at the vast expanse of empty seats in Stadium 1 today, wondering what happened to all those passionate screaming fans. Perhaps they've migrated back to the practice courts, where just days ago, hundreds of spectators were actively ignoring top players like Alexander Zverev and Taylor Fritz, choosing instead to be completely captivated by Eala simply tying her shoelaces. Now, let's turn our attention to the other major match that took place involving the world's #1 player. Aryna Sabalenka secured a long-awaited victory over Naomi Osaka. This win was 6 years in the making, requiring a maternity leave for Osaka and a day where she simply seemed off her game for it to finally materialize. Sabalenka won the match 6-2, 6-4, and even she confessed in a moment of candor that her results against Osaka only improved after Naomi became pregnant. What does that say about one's confidence on the court? Despite Sabalenka winning an impressive 70% of her service points. But the question remains, is anyone actually paying attention? The answer appears to be no. The entire tournament's narrative pivoted completely to Eala from the very instant she set foot on the California hard courts. Even the seasoned veterans of the sport are taking notice. Novak Djokovic made comments earlier this year regarding the Eala effect, following the ticketing pandemonium at the Australian Open. He remarked that having an overwhelming crowd is, in fact, a favorable problem to have. Well, the organizers at Indian Wells have just discovered what the less desirable version of that problem looks like, hosting a massive crowd that is solely invested in a single player. On a positive note, Eala departs California, having achieved a new career-high ranking of world number 28. She leaves with a smile and a sense of real accomplishment. The WTA, on the other hand, is left staring at a cavernous void in its viewership analytics. Do you remember that incredible moment when she triumphed over Diana Yastremska in that grueling 3-set marathon that opened her tournament run? The tournament's day-in-the-life video feature with Eala instantly skyrocketed to nearly 100,000 views, easily becoming the most watched piece of content they produced all year. Now, following her departure, the organizers will count themselves lucky if a highlight reel of the upcoming semifinals manages to pull even 10% of that staggering number. There's a certain irony in how the WTA markets itself as a genuinely global tour, yet seems completely blindsided whenever a national icon makes an early exit. They gave her the full superstar treatment because they were chasing her superstar-level engagement. Well, they certainly got it. And now they get a front-row seat to see exactly what the off-switch looks like in Manila, and far beyond. Eala has historically struggled when facing players from the Czech Republic. However, her record when it comes to elevating the blood pressure of television executives is a perfect 10-0. The tournament organizers made entirely reasonable decisions based on the massive fan base that Eala attracts. It was a powerful statement to place her on the primary show court, but the thing about making a statement is, it typically requires a definitive conclusion. Noskova provided that definitive conclusion. And now the tournament's atmosphere feels like a long, quiet drift of desert wind. Let's go even deeper into why this Eala effect is proving to be so genuinely alarming for the WTA's top executives. When you closely examine the YouTube analytics for the official BNP Paribas Open channel, you find what amounts to a digital graveyard of highlight clips that barely crack 2,000 views. Then you come across the videos featuring Eala, and suddenly, the viewership numbers explode to a level comparable to a MrBeast upload. We're talking 94,000 views on a simple day in the life piece. while decorated Grand Slam champions are struggling to break 5 digits. The marketing team wisely leaned into this surge, placing Eala's face on their Class of 2026 Instagram post, positioning her alongside 7 top 10 players. She was the only athlete featured in that entire graphic who was not already a seeded veteran or a winner of multiple Grand Slam tournaments. Just take a moment to reflect on the energy inside that stadium during that match. Even while Noskova was delivering a clinical and masterful performance, launching aces and dictating play from the baseline, the vast majority of the crowd's noise was for the young woman on the other side of the net. Every single time Eala held her serve, or even managed to strike a solid volley, the roar that erupted from the stands was absolutely deafening. It was precisely the kind of electric atmosphere the WTA dreams of creating: vocal, completely engaged, and overwhelmingly passionate. Then, just 56 minutes later, a profound silence descended. The dramatic drop in viewership is not just a story about the Philippines. It is also about the casual fan, who was completely swept up in the compelling narrative. The narrative of a 20-year-old rising phenom who had already eliminated Jasmine Paolini and witnessed Coco Gauff retire due to injury. People are always drawn to the story of a giant slayer. But when that giant slayer is defeated so decisively by a 14th seed, the casual audience quickly shifts its attention to the next viral sensation. Meanwhile, we are now left with the predictable logic of the tournament draw, where Sabalenka is clearly dominating the field. A promising new Canadian talent is emerging as one to watch, and Talia Gibson is making history as the first qualifier in 11 years to reach the quarterfinals. On paper, these are fantastic storylines. In reality, they simply do not carry the same magnetic pull. The WTA is learning the hard way that you cannot artificially manufacture the kind of organic nationalistic devotion that Eala naturally inspires. And let's be completely honest when talking about the match itself. Nothing seemed to click for her. Eala herself openly stated that she just could not find her rhythm or get into a comfortable groove. It was a very tough pill to swallow for a player who has been on such a meteoric rise, catapulting from a ranking of 140 all the way to 32, and now to 28, all within the span of a single year. But while she now looks ahead to Miami to regroup, the broadcasters at Indian Wells are looking at their rapidly plummeting viewership graphs and desperately wondering how to sell a Noskova versus Gibson quarterfinal to a global audience. The deep irony in this entire situation is that the WTA leadership actually believed they were the ones controlling the narrative. They were under the impression that they were using Eala's popularity to elevate the tournament's prestige. As it turns out, Eala was the one providing the tournament with its only authentic pulse. Now that that pulse has vanished, we're back to observing the same familiar faces and the same predictable outcomes. Sabalenka will in all likelihood win the title. The stadium will remain half full for the final, and the stunned silence within WTA offices will surely continue, right up until the next time a Filipino star's name appears in the main draw. One must truly consider the sheer gravity of this powerful market shift. We are witnessing a player who has yet to secure a single WTA title, attracting larger crowds at her practice sessions than an established top-tier player like Alexander Zverev. The contrast is so stark, it becomes almost comical to witness in real time. You can observe top 5 players walking around the tournament grounds almost like anonymous tourists, because nearly everyone is too preoccupied queuing up for a selfie with the world's number 32. Tournament director Philippe Doré has admitted that they relished every minute of the excitement and actively promoted it. But the lingering question is, do they truly know how to sustain that energy once she is no longer competing? The viewership numbers strongly suggest they do not. When Eala was playing her late-night matches on Stadium 3 earlier in the week, the floodlights stayed on, and thousands of her dedicated fans remained in the cold night air, just to watch her grind out demanding 3-set battles. Now, by comparison, the night sessions on Stadium 1 look like a very expensive and eerily quiet library. It is a sobering reality check for a sport that has long struggled to build new star power in the post-Serena era. They had found a new star, but they didn't seem to realize that she arrived with an entire country behind her, one that would collectively switch off their televisions the very second she stepped off the court for the last time. And, finally, let's address the key takeaway from this entire event. Eala says she leaves the tournament feeling happy. She is also $15,720 richer, which is approximately 6.3 million pesos for those keeping score at home. She has successfully cracked into the top 30 for the very first time. But for the WTA organization, this learning experience is proving to be substantially more painful. The organization is now confronting the stark reality that its supposed worldwide influence is, in fact, an aggregation of highly focused and deeply player-specific fan communities. Once the single athlete responsible for carrying the majority of audience engagement is eliminated, what was presented as a global sport begins to feel remarkably small in a very short period of time. We saw the early signs of this in Dubai. The same pattern emerged in Doha, and it was undeniably present in Melbourne. The Eala effect is best described as a roving seismic event for the tour. She arrives in a city. She completely upends the existing order, shatters a few long-standing records, and then moves on to her next destination, leaving a trail of disruption in her wake. Miami is the next stop on this tour, and the stakes could not be higher. Eala faces the immense pressure of defending a staggering 390 ranking points from her incredible, almost unbelievable run there last year. Should she fail to advance to the semifinals, her position in the world rankings will inevitably take a significant hit. But if she manages to succeed, the WTA benefits from another fortnight of organically boosted viewership figures. It has become a high-stakes game of keeping the headline star in the tournament bracket for as long as humanly possible. Here in Indian Wells, however, that game has abruptly come to an end. What is typically referred to as tennis paradise has instantly transformed into tennis purgatory, especially for the tournament's marketing and promotions department. They gambled by featuring their marquee player far too early in the draw, and are now left with unranked qualifiers and dependable but ultimately unexciting veterans. It is a textbook example of the precarious nature of modern sports viewership. One player is eliminated, and the entire festive atmosphere collapses. So what exactly is the WTA's contingency plan at this point? Do they genuinely intend to convince the millions of viewers who tuned in specifically to watch Eala that they should stick around and watch the methodical baseline game of Linda Noskova? We wish them the very best of luck with that. Noskova is undoubtedly a talented athlete ranked world number 14 for very good reason, but she simply does not command the support of a 100 million strong nation that treats every single point she plays with the intensity of a World Cup final. The ultimate irony here is that from a purely commercial standpoint, the tournament organizers did everything right. They gave her top priority in scheduling. They placed her in the spotlight at every possible opportunity. They built their entire marketing campaign around her presence. What they failed to account for is the fundamental truth of professional sports: unpredictability is the one variable that can never, ever be managed or controlled. Evidently, Linda Noskova did not receive the memo explaining that her role was merely to serve as a supporting cast member in the grand production starring Alex Eala. She walked onto that court and embraced the role of antagonist with chilling perfection, executing a decisive and clinical defeat in well under 60 minutes. Now the WTA is left to survey the complete wreckage of their viewership metrics. The class of 2026 promotional post on Instagram is, of course, still live online, although it now carries a slightly uncomfortable and ill-timed quality, given that its central figure is already en route to Florida. This serves as a powerful and rather severe reminder that you can build the most magnificent stadium on the planet, but you cannot compel an audience to stay in their seats after the one person they came to see has already left. Better fortune next year, Indian Wells. Perhaps for the next tournament. You can hope and pray for a draw that strategically keeps the national sports icons separated from the formidable Czech power hitters for at least a couple more rounds. In the meantime, please enjoy the profound quiet. It is the collective sound of a million households switching off their televisions simultaneously. The desert air suddenly feels a great deal more still, doesn't it? If you suspect the WTA is anxiously watching these ratings drop just as closely as we are, go ahead and smash that like button right now. Subscribe to the channel so you're the first to know the next time a single athlete's performance completely dismantles an entire tournament's engagement algorithm. And don't forget to hit that notification bell because trust me, the drama heading into Miami is just getting started. We'll see you in the next one.